Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. I talk about Blu-rays here. And for today's episode, I'm doing a little bit of a Vinegar Syndrome partner label spotlight again. And I am spotlighting the TerrorVision partner label, which is really shaping up to be something interesting, I gotta say. I'm going to talk about this film documentary Love and Saucers, which is definitely a departure from what they've been doing, which is more along the lines of something like this, Killing Spree, which I believe is shot on video, horror film. I'm excited to dig into this one, and just to kind of get a sense of the breadth of what TerrorVision is doing, but I'm intrigued because if it's this kind of thing it was going to be all the time, that's interesting. But when you throw something like this documentary in the mix, it really opens it up for, the kind of things they might do. And that's exciting. This is a fascinating documentary. It's from 2017. It is directed by Brad Abrahams. And it's short. It's only about 67 minutes. I just took the slipcase off. I'll explain this artwork in a second. But the idea is that the documentary focuses on a gentleman named David Huggins. He's 72 years old. He lives in Hoboken, New Jersey. And he claims to have had many extraterrestrial encounters in his life. And many of them of a sexual nature, including he claims to have lost his virginity to an alien female. And I know, your initial read on that sort of thing will be, well, that guy sounds crazy. And I don't know where I stand on it myself. It's hard not to lean that way. But what's interesting about this guy is that he has taken those experiences and turned them into a large series of paintings. And he has a lot of stories in great detail about each painting. And in the movie kind of goes through various incidences that happened to him starting back in the 1950s when he was living in rural Georgia. That seems to be a lot where a lot of the big stuff happened to him. And yeah, the movie is very intriguing because he is this very ultimately quiet, although you get a lot of him talking in this, but you come to find out from the commentary and other things, he's a quiet guy and doesn't really talk about this stuff that much. But he just really seems to believe with a great deal of conviction this stuff happens to him. I mean, it happened already. And I know that, the point of view you could have if he's, mentally not right is that, of course, he seems to believe it. People that are, in a certain mental state, of course, they believe what they're seeing, what really happened to them is real. But anyway, there's something to this. There's something intriguing about his story and the way that he tells it and the details. There's lots of interesting recollections, and his artwork is very haunting. Like, you get a sense of it from, this is the actual losing of his virginity, the way he remembers it. This is another painting of his. There's tons of paintings throughout, and it's fascinating to see the artwork. There's some more artwork here. The disc itself has some on it. And yeah, I don't know. I just found my mind really engaged by this idea and this man and whatever happened to him. There is some, and what's great is the commentary is really, really pretty good. It's the director and producer, and they really do go through and sort of pick the movie apart in a way and call out things that people tend to respond to and tend to see oh, this is where he reveals that something's not right, like that this didn't happen or something like that. Like there's some inconsistencies in terms of the story that I find intriguing, but not necessarily in a way that I feel like it disqualifies everything, but it is interesting. But one of the main things that he proclaims is that all these experiences were suppressed for a good portion of his life, and then at some point in 1987, he remembers the exact date, I want to say he found this specific book that was about some abductions. And when he read it, suddenly, I guess, the memory started flooding back. One of the theories you could have is that he read the book and sort of projected his own memories of what is happening in the book, because some of the stuff is very similar. If you listen to the commentary, they say the book is very much like, has incidences very much like what he's describing. And he's, said he's read it. And there's even moments where he's reading something in the book and he's like, oh, now I remember that. And so it really does sound a bit suspect, but if you see the way this guy talks about these things and that he doesn't really have a motive, he's not really looking to exploit this. It just becomes very, very intriguing. There's also something they posit in the commentary, which I think is really, I don't know, there's something to this idea of maybe abductions are not happening in the sense that we think, where an alien comes down and visits you physically. Maybe they're interacting with some part of your brain, as there's a lot of our brains that we don't fully understand, and that it's happening, if you will, on some other plane inside your brain. And it feels real, and you feel like you've gone somewhere, but in fact, they're interacting with some part. Anyway, I'm not saying I believe any of this stuff, but I just find it intriguing. And the whole movie's intriguing on that level. And his artwork is truly haunting and, disturbing in parts. And, there's some stuff they get into about his personal life and his marriage and his son. We get to see his son. His ex-wife doesn't want to be interviewed, but, we find out that she's still with him. And there's all kinds of interesting ins and outs to this guy's life and his story. But yeah, it's a really interesting documentary. And like I said, I think for me, it bodes well for TerrorVision as a label, because it's not going to be, and don't get me wrong, I'm very excited to watch Killing Spree. It looks intriguing, but when you throw this sort of offbeat documentary into the mix, then I'm like, oh, what will they do next? I really have no clue. So this is a great entry. And this, for anybody that wants to check this out, it's on Roku channel, it's on Vudu free, it's on Tubi, Pluto TV, and Plex. You can watch it in any one of those places and check it out. But this Blu-ray is pretty great. Like, that commentary really does bring out a lot of interesting stuff. Not the least of which is, like, there's a great scene where he's going through his movie collection, which is filled with, it's all VHS, it's filled with alien movies, The Thing from Another World, and all this stuff, and more theorizing about, him transplanting things from the movies and whatever. But there's like a throwaway bit in the commentary where the director asks him, like, what is your favorite movie? And he says, Jumpin' Jack Flash. And I just thought, that's really interesting. That's funny. But okay, so this has lots of features, and the way it's listed on the back, you just see like Zoom interviews with these people. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's listed, but I took a picture of the actual menu so I can read it to you. But like, the commentary with Brad Abrams and producer Matt Ralston was very good. There's an interview with artist Robert Crumb of, the great underground comic, and a great documentary by Terry Zwigoff. And I love this conversation. It's about 25 minutes. And, the interviewer is just talking to him about, Crumb ended up by proxy buying some of these paintings. And he has all kinds of interesting philosophies and theories about aliens and Bigfoot, and he's just a very open-minded guy, and his general philosophies about life and humans I just find so compelling and so like, wow, I don't know, it's just one of those things where it's a general chat with him about this stuff, but you're like, man, I'd love to just hang out and talk to Robert Crumb. He just seems like a really interesting dude. Not that I didn't take that away from the documentary, but anyway, so that's really cool. Then you have a Q&A with David Huggins at Phil Mocha, which is a museum or something, screening from 2017. So you get another interview with him. Interview with the composer Derek Renneman, and I really do like the score. It's ethereal, it's haunting. It combined with the paintings, there's an uneasy feeling to the movie that it could hit you in a different way because of those elements. Interview with cinematographer Mun Powell. Interview with Julian Field, host of the QAnon Anonymous podcast. Interview with artist Robert Caradetti from Killer Acid. Interview with Professor Jeffrey Kripal, who's in the movie, and he definitely has a really unique take, and one that I absolutely am, sort of also engaged by, about mystical experiences in religions. He's a professor, and so, yeah, there's just lots of interesting stuff, and I'm glad that they got that interview in there. Interview with screenwriter Richard Hatem. Interview with Rob Christopherson, host of the Our Strange Skies podcast. So you've got so much material here that you're obviously not going to get from seeing it on Tubi or wherever. But yeah, I really, really dug this. Like, I wasn't, when I heard the premise, I was like, I don't know about that. But yeah, it just ended up being one of those movies that I watched it. I was like, And then I started going through those features, and it really just spins your head out in this way that you're like, maybe it's not quite as cut and dried as I think it is, or at least I like to entertain the idea that, the universe is much more expansive and much more, beyond my comprehension. And this is the kind of avenue to that sort of line of thinking, So anyway, Love and Saucers, very solid little documentary, a nice entry from TerrorVision. So that is it for this little spotlight. Thank you for watching and or listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.